Yeah,
That makes it a lot easier, and I'll be a lot more likely to actually fill it out each month.
that's
So,
really cool. I like that. That's a good one. I like that.
yeah, just kind of down on me, pair them.
I'm with you too. I know we haven't, done a whole lot yet, but I will tell you, just from doing this class video over these, how long have we done this? Like a couple of months, like not even that long, right? Like I know my thinking has changed a lot just from doing this and hanging out with you guys 1 hour a week. It's really affecting me a lot. Hopefully you guys as well. Okay, so now we're going to go into the financial model of the millionaire real estate investor. All right. He starts off by saying there are two ways to build financial wealth by investing in real estate. I know that sounds way too simple, but it's true. There are just two. Within those two are a vast array of variations that can give the appearance of massive complexity. When you truly understand the two basic drivers of financial wealth, you begin to see the fundamental opportunities they present and know how to take advantage of them. The two ways to make money in real estate investing, the two drivers of financial wealth are, number one, equity buildup, and number two, cash flow growth. They can happen simultaneously, and so you can benefit from both at the same time. Equity buildup increases your net worth in your real estate assets, while cash flow growth provides a stream of unearned income. You can live on that income or reinvest it by paying down your debt or acquiring more real estate. If you keep your money in play by reinvesting the cash flow, which is my recommendation, when I say mine, I mean Gary Keller's. No one cares what my recommendation is. If you do what Gary Keller says and you reinvest it, you're accelerating your equity buildup and therefore the growth of your personal net worth. Remember, your net worth is the measure of your success, your score in the game of financial wealth building. Equity buildup. Okay, so we're talking about the first way of building wealth through real estate, equity buildup. When you look at equity buildup closely, see the chart on the following page, you discover that it comes from two factors. Anybody? How do we get equity buildup? What goes into that? There's two ways to do that. You buy an investment property. How do you build up equity? There's two ways.
Price appreciation and debt pay down.
There you go, right? So one of it is that the property itself is growing in value. The second is that the mortgage that you owe on it, how much you owe on the property, the tenant that you've got in that property is paying it off. Or if you live there, you're paying it off, right? If you buy it right, which we will clarify in this section on the acquisition model, your real estate investment will begin with a margin of equity right away. This means that your initial down payment, the investment, plus the mortgage loan you incur, the debt, when added together, will still be less than the price you could sell the property for, which is market value. That difference is your equity in the property. So there's a figure of that on figure 12 on page 146, which is if you buy it right from the get-go, you should already have equity from the get-go, meaning you're buying it at a discount. You can turn around and sell it at a profit is what he's implying. And I can't wait to see how he's saying he's going to do that, but we'll learn that in a later chapter. Anyways, he goes on to say, over time, as you rent the property, the two natural forces of price appreciation and debt pay down work together to increase your equity. He has a great example here. Let's take a real life look at this process. Again, he's looking at a property that if he bought in 1988 for $90,000, again, clearly not in California. And again, hey, just because the numbers, there's an extra zero in California, the formulas and everything still apply. It's just up to you if you want to, buy in California or another state or whatever. Okay, so he has a fictitious property, buys at 90,000. He goes through some calculations there. I'm not going to go through that, but it is good reading. He goes on page 148. What makes the financial model of the millionaire real estate investor so compelling is the combined impact of all these factors. This is where the power of real estate to build financial wealth is fully revealed. In the investment we have analyzed, this is how it all adds up. Your 14,000, remember, because you're financing, right? So let's say you buy this $90,000 house back in what year did we say? 1988. And you purchased it with 20, he says you could have purchased it 20% below market value. By the way, back in the day, now you guys don't remember this, but when I was doing real estate in 2010, freaking the maelstrom of the financial crash, you could not make a mistake as a buyer. I mean, there were shorts, the average short sale price was like 40% off the market value. Like, I mean, it's crazy, man. It's just, I mean, I don't know about here, but I was in Charleston, South Carolina at the time. But I mean, everybody who bought property then was just like, it's amazing the deals you could get. Anyways, so I guess it is possible, but he's saying you get it at a discount, but let's just go through this. Okay. So let's say you invest $14,400 in 1988, turned into equity of more than 128,506 in just 15 years. That would be like putting your 14,400 in a bank account at an annual compounded interest rate of 15.7%. If you had used a 15-year mortgage, your equity would have grown to 171K. That's like an annual compounded interest rate of 18%. It's crazy, right? That's real estate. That's why we love it. Cash flow growth. As good as all this equity buildup is, and it is very good and very real to a millionaire real estate investor, it is not the whole story. There is the added benefit of cash flow growth to consider. See figure 14. So there's a figure on page 149 about this. Net cash flow is achieved from a real estate investment when the rental income you receive is more than the cost you incur. The costs include your expenses, an allowance for vacancy, and debt service, the mortgage payment on the property. All of this will be outlined in more detail in the section on the acquisition model. For now, let's just say that if you buy it right, finance it wisely, and control your expenses, you can achieve a positive net cash flow. As rents appreciate over time, historically they increase at about the same rate as price appreciation, the cash flow will then grow. Once the loan is paid off, the net cash flow grows dramatically because your monthly mortgage loan payment goes away. In our example of the 90,000 rental property purchased in 1988, we realistically could have received over the 15 years a total net cash flow between 18,000 if we had a 15-year mortgage and 34,000 using a 30-year mortgage. In 2004, our 16th year of ownership, the annual net cash flow from the property would be about 4,600 with the 30-year mortgage. In the case of the 15-year loan, since it would be paid off, our annual net cash flow would jump to over $9,400. Let's add it all up. So here on figure 15 on page 150 is like an overall look at what a theoretical purchase in 1988 if you had owned that property for 16 years, right? You get this property for $90,000. You get it at a discount, saving $18,000.
You're on camera.
You purchase it for $72K. Down payment 20%, mortgage loan amount 80%, right? So 80-20 loan. Here's how the numbers all add up. The equity buildup is 128,000. The net cash flow total is 34.5 thousand. The total return is over $163,000. That is a 17.6 return on your investment overall total, right? I don't know if he's got making repairs in here or maintenance in there, but it's close to it, right? And there's just no, where else are you going to get a 17% return on investment? And this isn't like, I know Gary, and he's not Pollyanna about like, you know, making up numbers and pretending that they're all, you know, he's very realistic about numbers and stuff. So there's a case in point. Any comments on that? Ahas, lessons learned? Makes me think I can't wait to get back in the real estate investing game as soon as possible. So I'm working hard to do that. Any other comments?
I think, yeah, Ed, hi, it's Sharon.
Hey, Sharon.
I think that, hey, how are you? So I think just listening all these weeks and months, it just reinforces the fact that the return on investment is so high in real estate that this is something that you definitely need to consider and learn about. So I'm really happy that I'm part of this group. And the more we talk about real estate, the more you read into the book and talk about 17% returns, 32% returns, it just kind of reinforces everything that I've been thinking about real estate, which is to invest and having that investor's mindset.
Yeah. Such a great point, Sharon. I love it. And two, the other thing on top of that too, is that not only are you earning these kind of returns, but they're pretty safe investments. I mean, not that you can't make a bad real estate investment, but by the time we're done reading this book and analyzing a bunch of properties, like we're all going to be smart enough to not really, like the odds of making like a true bad mistake is very little. Like that, even if it goes down 20, like real estate has an awful year and it goes down 10%, back the Great Recession was crying like the worst ever, lost, property sometimes lost 30% of value. You just hold on to it and it bounced back. Anybody who bought in 2005 is doing just fine overall on their investment now, as long as they were able to ride it out, right? So good stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
There
was a property that I was actually looking at. Funny enough, it was in a building that I had purchased a condo back in 2001, I want to say. And I bought it at the time for 134.5. And now they're selling for almost like 469 something. And had I held on to that property, it's unbelievable what I could have gotten on return just with rent. And if I wanted to sell it today, I wish I still had it, to be honest.
That's such a great point, Sharon. And one other thing I'll tell you guys too, and I've heard this from one of my mentors, Greg Harrelson, who just a huge real estate agent. His team used to do over 800 transactions a year. Now, granted, they're a lot smaller, but I mean, definitely a millionaire real estate investor. Gary Keller had him up on stage when I first met him back in 2010. I heard this from him. I've heard this from Rick Edler, who's a Sotheby's guy. And I've heard this a couple other times. And it's a quote that I've heard almost word for word. And it's crazy, but it's always stuck with me. And the thing that they've said, all of these guys, they said, if you're in this business for a long, you're in this business for 20, 30 years, and if you do this right, you will make more money from the investments than you will ever make from your clients buying and selling real estate. And that has just always stuck with me, especially because they came from people that I really admire and look up to a lot. And that's something that I've always held on to. So any comments on that? Anybody else hear that from other people?
Yeah, I mean, when I first started in real estate, I started at Shorewood. Probably most of you here don't even know who that is anymore. But do you remember Shorewood? They were like the #1 independent company at that time, and they owned pretty much all of the beach areas. And Arnold Goldstein was the owner, and he would meet all the recruits coming in. And over time, the advice that they gave us, he and Mike, was this. He said, I'm going to tell you one thing. Buy one piece of real estate starting now every year while you're in real estate. And of course, I laughed. Of course, yeah, we're going to buy real estate. And then I think in retrospect, if any of you are just starting or maybe not, as far in as I am, 20 years in, just take that advice to heart, because there's very little sacrifice that could have been made along the way and made it work. I think it was always perceived as this thing out there as opposed to making it like a priority. So where Sharon, you're having this revelation, and I had that revelation, instead of now, where this is my focus now, I'd be in Hawaii maybe right now on the beach, drinking a Mai Tai. Probably not. I'm a workaholic, but you know what I mean. At least the option to do so.
At one point, my wife and I owned 4 properties in Denton, Texas.
Nice.
And we had to sell them off in 2012 at like the worst. We didn't lose money on it. We made money on those properties, but if we had held on to them, we would have been they would be, it would be like $600,000 worth of equity, something in that. Well, actually, something like that. Yeah, actually, yeah.
So were they not cash flowing? Is that why you can hang on to them?
They were cash flow positive, but very little. But we got into some serious financial trouble. My daughter had a health issue, and we had to scrape everything together for for health reason, for, health
Got it.
insurance, health reasons. Early on, one of the first classes we talked about the consequences of being underinsured, especially when it comes to health insurance and medical expenses. And I am a example of how bad it can get. And yeah.
David, you still need to give a talk on that. I think we start, I don't know if it ever happened. I've missed a couple, but just like what's the best insurance? I know you talked about life insurance, and I think your motto was get the best you can, right? I mean, the best that you can afford.
Or it depends on what
Okay.
it is. I see a lot of people make a mistake on buying over insuring themselves for no reason because they're so scared. And
Yeah.
one thing that you have to really understand is that you have to protect yourself in a way that, for example, if you are buying, if you have any kids and you have people, you have dependents, and you want to make sure that you have at least life insurance, because that's the main thing, because that's the only thing, when, we used to say when somebody passes away, everybody is knocking on the door asking for money except the life insurance guy. He's the only one that's giving you money. So that, you just have to figure out, each individual person is different. You can't really say one advice goes for everybody across the board, because like I said, everybody is different. For me right now, for example, there is no need for life insurance. My kids are grown and they're making their own money right now, and I don't really need to protect them. And we have enough assets for my wife, so it just there's no need for that. But for somebody that don't have any assets and they have no income, definitely that's required. Now, health insurance, we know Ed is a poster child for that. So, that's important to have now these days. You need to have that, because it's one of those things that if something happens, you need to make sure that you don't go bankrupt. There's a lot of people going bankrupt every year because of not being able to take care of the health, insurance. The health bills.
So meaning you want to go with like a PPO that you can afford, something that you can select the doctors, but also, I don't know.
Everybody's case is different. I myself, I'm the advocate on buying an insurance with high deductible, because personally, I'm not really concerned about $35 or $100 or $200 doctor visits. I really don't care for that. I'm more concerned about it with 100,000, 200,000, 300,000. So most of the PPOs, they have a deductible and a out-of-pocket maximum, which is about $15,000 a year. Worst case scenario, you can just put that on your credit card, or you can make a payment plan for it.
Right.
But
Because it's really, you're hedging against a big problem.
large
You're not-
catastrophe.
right.
That's what I always try to ensure: a large catastrophe, not just a small amount of payout.
Right.
It doesn't really make sense to me. So everybody's case is different. There's a lot of people that they just feel comfortable having a low deductible and they don't mind paying the premium. That's okay too. But if you invest the difference between a high deductible and a low deductible every year, you would see that you would have a better investment after 10 years.
Yeah.
So
That's how insurance companies make money, right?
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the
That's
case.
what I was always taught. You don't get insurance for the things you can afford. You get insurance for the things that you can't afford.
Absolutely.
That's the best way to put it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
If you can afford a $10,000 hit or whatever, you don't really need the insurance. You need the insurance for, none of us can afford, if one of us were to pass, to die unexpectedly, our families would be left with all the burden of cost of, like, my wife would be left with raising the kids and all that. So that's, we don't have enough to cover that. So that's where you get life insurance to cover that expense, that's the way that I was taught. What do you think of that, David?
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of people think that, when the spouse is not working, I mean, he or she is a homemaker, there's no need for that. We say that that's not absolutely correct, because childcare is a very, very expensive proposition. So if somebody, let's say for example, there's a husband and wife, and
That's
and they
right.
both-
That's where all my down payment money went. God dang, thank you, David. I was wondering, what the heck did I do with all the money? And one of them sitting here.
Yeah,
he's
I
now
promise you, I
working
found you money.
for me.
Right. So, it's very expensive to take care of, the home and children and all that. So that's another need, that at least the term insurance until the kids are grown. Term insurance is very cheap, if you're young, so it's not really that expensive. So, yeah, so if that answers your question, I don't know if it does or
No, I
not.
appreciate that. Thank you very much. Yeah, it sounds like for you, Ed, it was not about, you didn't make any bad choices on your investment. You just had a situation where you had to liquidate. So that's totally
Yeah.
different.
No, it wasn't an investment. It wasn't a poor investment. It was a poor insurance thing that costed me having to sell off a good investment.
Yeah, so that's why I was bringing it back. Like, okay, so the problem was being underinsured, not that you made a bad
Underinsured.
decision
Yeah,
on your investments.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, we were insured. It was just that we were in South Carolina, and this was in South Carolina in 2011, before Obamacare came in. And there was a sequence of things that happened that was all just the worst luck. And we just got caught having to pay a lot out of pocket for proper healthcare for her. And, we had to make some tough decisions. Like, sure, we could, not go this route and it would be covered, or we could go it on our own, which is the way it needs to be done. And so anyways, I don't want not to go there.
And,
You know where?
and
Yeah.
I must say that you did make a right choice.
Yeah.
I mean, I would not say that was a bad choice to make. I mean, you did
course not.
because you have to take care of your family.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's when we talk about insurance, here's one place that I see this a lot is for disability insurance, which, by the way, we haven't even touched on, but that's something we should all be thinking about as well, which is, life insurance is what happens if you get struck by lightning and you're dead. Disability is like what happens if you get struck by lightning and you're a vegetable, or damaged where you can't work, for the next, but you live for 30 more years. And what happens to everyone around you then? That's the classic example. And this is what I see about that is I've talked to a lot of people who are like, oh yeah, I've got great disability insurance. It will cover me for 3 months if I'm ever in something. And I'm like, that's the exact opposite one. Like, I'm okay. Like if it's 3 months, 6 months, I'll find a way, like I can scrape by. We've got enough people who are in there. I want to know like what's going to happen to me, like, after 6 months, after a year, after 2 years, if there's something like, certainly we don't need for us to be living like kings, but I just want to make sure that my family isn't burdened with, that none of us are burdened should something happen to my wife or I. And that's where disability comes in, right? So, which, by the way, I don't currently have. So I've had it in the past, but I don't currently. But I do need to get back on top of that. But that's one other thing that to consider in that when we talk about insurance. All right, so let's. This is fun. By the way, we should probably have like David. Are you still brokering insurance? Do you still sell insurance and that kind of stuff?
No, the funny thing is that I had my license. I got my real estate license, insurance license at the same time, 97.
Yeah.
For some reason, I held on to my real estate license for 24 years, and I let go of my insurance license the minute I sold my insurance agency. So I don't.
Makes sense.
I'm not active anymore. I'm not doing that anymore. But I have information that I can provide if you like. That's all I can do.
What do you guys think of having an insurance segment of wealth? Working on wealth, where we bring in some insurance people to talk to us about like, what is the right amount of insurance, what kind of insurance, and all that kind of stuff. I see Sharon gives a thumbs up. Everybody good?
Absolutely.
Good.
Yeah. I think it's
I
important.
said, David, I'll talk to you about it, David, because you might know of some people who would be good to do that, or you might be,
Well, if you like just to get the information, I can give you that information, even though I can't really sell you anything.
That might be
Okay.
even better, honestly, because
Yeah.
if we have somebody, we might feel uncomfortable telling them about like where we found better rates and whatever. So, if you wouldn't mind kind of leading that next week for
Yeah,
some
I
time.
mean, I can answer all your questions and concerns, but as far as giving rates and doing all that, because I
But
don't have that.
maybe recommendations on which companies you would start with.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah.
And just like what kinds? What's that?
I think you and I share the same fear of, I mean, we could play our cards right and we get T-bone driving home, and next thing you know, we're a quadriplegic and we can't work or whatever it is. So that disability insurance, it's worth it, at least, I mean, insurance in general sounds like it's worth half a class, if not a whole class of just covering that, whether as important as it is.
Right on. Let's do that. We'll do that next week. This is awesome stuff.
I think, Ed, if you don't mind, I think you guys need to put in, like a agenda or list of insurances that you're concerned about, because there's so many different types. We got life and health and disability, and then we got auto and home and, business and stuff like that. So if you can just break it up maybe in 15, 20 minutes sessions each time on each type, that way it's more clear. We're not really jumping from one thing to another. It's easier to comprehend that way.
That sounds good. So yeah, I'll post it on the Facebook group. Let's break it up into categories, and we'll just do it like for the next 3 or 4 sessions, as long as David's available and it works for your schedule. We'll just say whenever David's available, we'll cover one of those topics and we'll all just kind of talk about it. And David will probably have a lot more insight than the rest of us, but we'll just open up to everybody. And like we'll cover life insurance, disability insurance probably next week, right? And then the week after we can talk about
Next week is Thanksgiving.
Yes, thank you, Camilla. Not next week, the week after Thanksgiving.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, and we'll probably take off the second half of December too for this group, because I know a lot of people are going to be out of town, including myself and stuff. So we'll work all that out. Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun. Okay, let's do this. We still got 15 minutes left. Miguel, you want to give us that property? You want to post that property in the chat, and let's run through and analyze it if that sounds good to you.
Sounds good. Let me, I mean, I can tell you the address. It's 1035 West 12th Street.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Let me do this. Body. No, yeah, yes. Okay. All right. Is it under residential income or residential?
Probably residential income. I found it. I'm finding these on Realtor because I'm not familiar enough with the MLS yet to find all these multifamilies.
Okay.
But I got the MLS number if that'll help.
Oh, that's even better. Yeah, what's the MLS number?
Yeah, PV 212-43125.
1035 West 12th Street, right?
Yeah.
All right, so here we go, everybody. This is a 4-unit, a quad. Here's your opportunity to jump on a fantastic bread and butter 4-unit income producing property in Vista del Oro. With 2 of the 4 units being delivered vacant, explore endless opportunities to buy as an owner occupant. Invest property while maximizing rents. The 2 rear units feature 2-bedroom, 1 bath with interior laundry hookups. Well, that's good. Front units feature 1 bedroom and 1 bath with interior laundry hookups and upgraded windows. Extended driveway leads to the rear, which includes 4 garage spaces, 2 1-car and 1 2-car garage, with additional space for parking. Each unit has its own electrical and gas meter, while the owner covers water. There's 1 water meter. This prime neighborhood is centrally located just a few blocks from shopping, local schools, transportations, and restaurants. With the redevelopment of the LA waterfront on its way, it's a great time to invest and buy in San Pedro. And it sure is, by the way. I love San Pedro. This is a good.
I know, it all sounds very fishy the way you read it, Ed.
Where is this here? I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna
Yeah,
share.
so this is actually, I grew up in San Pedro, so San Pedro can be a little sketchy depending on the neighborhood.
Yeah.
It's actually a good neighborhood. It's a really good neighborhood. And two of them are being delivered vacant. For my client, she's looking at living in one, and I don't think she minds paying higher than market rent or what she would get for market rent. She's looking to get an investment property under her belt and get somewhere for her little what's the biggest dog they make, or the biggest dog out there is
Great Dane, Rottweiler.
Pony,
Great Dane. Yeah.
great thing.
So
That's good. All right, this is cool. First of all, if I was gonna buy in LA, that's one of the few places that I really like is San Pedro. All right, so let's look at this. We're gonna close this page for the moment. We're gonna open up. Where do I got it?
yeah, I don't know if this would be an issue, but in the listing information, it says it's in a zone R2, zoned for R2, and it's a 4-unit. I don't know if I don't know if that was a mistake or if that would be an issue.
I mean, it's definitely good to look at. If it's my opinion on that is that it's probably not an issue, but it's definitely something you want to like take a look at to make sure, you know, during the, put it this way, I wouldn't let that slow me down in writing up an offer on the property, but it's something I would look at while I was in escrow during the inspection period.
Okay. So she has, she says she has 100,000 for the down payment. And I figure if we include closing costs, maybe 75, 80,000 down, and then extra for closing.
All right, so let's say, what do we want to say is the purchase price? What do you think you could actually get it for?
If they're already under contract, maybe 1.2, someone might have given them a lower offer that they could have gone with. So maybe asking would work.
All right, so let's just say you get it at list price, right? And let's say that is fair market value. Let's say you put 25% down. Interest rate 3.5%. What do we think of this 3.5% interest rate? Is that the going rate right now for an investor?
Ed,
Yes, David.
he said that they only have $80,000 of down payment.
Well, 100,000 total. So we're, oh, did I put in a different number?
So, okay, so if you've only got, that could be a prop, well, are they gonna live in one of the units?
Yep.
Oh, well, there you go. All right, so let's.
Yeah. And they're willing to take on the
say-
extra.
Let's just for these purposes, say you can find a 5% loan, meaning you put down $60,000, yeah?
This would be for a primary?
Yep.
For a primary, there are, I believe there are some 5% places out there. Not a whole lot, but that's gonna be a challenge is being able to buy it for $100,000 down payment. Because that's about 8%. Which if it's a primary resident, you know, if you're buying a quad and you're living in one of the units, most of them will let you treat it as if it's a primary residence. I believe it's been a while since I did this, but I believe you can get away with putting like 5% down.
And
I think there's lenders out there who'll do it. You probably won't get it for.
Yeah, is
Let's
she
say
approved
probably get it-
already?
What's that?
Are they approved already?
She says she's pre-approved, but she hasn't sent me the pre-approval letter. She says she was pre-approved through her loan broker. So I was like, I'm gonna need one from a lender before we can, yeah.
Yeah, because as far as I know, if you're buying multifamily under 4 and under, they underwrite it based on the buyer's income, not the property's income.
Yeah, yeah. And
So you
she's,
may want to make sure that you have a pre-approval on that first before you
yeah,
move on.
yeah. And she's a new, I just finished up her doctor. She's like officially a doctor now. So her income is her income solid.
Okay.
All right, so let's say you can do this at 5, and let's say because she's putting 5% down, that her rate goes up to 3.75. It may be even higher than that, but let's just be optimistic about this. right, so let's see, what can these units rent for? So they've got the pro forma in here. You know what pro forma means, right? It means fictitious and in no way accurate.
Yeah, this didn't seem, it's like, like a fancy word of saying, I'm guessing.
It's
And
a
they
fancy
didn't
word of, it's a fancy word for marijuana, meaning like someone's high when they were writing this. I'm just kidding. Meaning that, you know, the point I'm making is that, okay, all kidding aside, is take pro forma with a grain of sand. You know, like what I tell my clients is like, hey, the agent who's trying to sell the property tells us this is what they're going to rent for. So we'll just use that as a starting point, and then we'll see what the actual reality is later on. And by the way, you can already see here that 2 of the units are rented out for $1,000 a piece. You know, what's the rule for getting one of those tenants out? You know, in San Pedro, is it even possible? Can you get a tenant out of there, or are they protected as?
Oh, they're protected. Yeah, City of LA.
So yeah, you're not. Yeah, so 2 of these are going to be 1,000 right off the bat. Like that's not.
Yeah. Thankfully, one of the vacant one is 2 and 1, and I'm pretty sure it'd probably get around 21 on the higher end, maybe.
So let's say
1,000.
yeah, okay. We'll go with a 5% vacancy rate. I think you could even do this at a, you know, yeah, I would say 5%. Let's say she manages it herself and she finds the tenant herself. Maintenance reserves, how do we feel about $1,000 annually? It's probably low. It probably needs to be more like 2,000 annually.
Yeah, I had 2,300. I think that was maybe 5% roughly, but per unit.
Anybody else? Thoughts on maintenance reserve? Couple $100 a month, yeah. Okay, property taxes on this thing. We know they're not. Let's say
I got my property tax info off of a realtor, and it was around 15,000 a year. Or is it? Yeah.
Right.
I think you're going to be around 13,200, right? 1% plus whatever special assessments and stuff.
It's,
I'll
no,
take it.
no, it's 1.25. It's $15,000 a year.
So how does that? I thought it was 1%. I thought when
1% is a state, and then we have other entities that they're attacking you for your money. So
okay. All right, so let's change to 15,000. Insurance, David, do you know more about this? How do you feel about $300 annually to insure that?
no way.
More like 1,000?
No, I would go around $1,500 to $2,000 for that. It's 4 units. Remember, when we talk about 4 units, we're talking about 4 risk.
Yeah.
And one more thing. If you're buying multi-family 4 units and all that, if the roof lines are not, if it's the same line, you want different they want you to have different policy for each building. So that costs, it's not cost you more.
Okay. So let's say $2,000 for insurance. Now this, there's no HOA fee, so this you can drop down a whole lot. Lawn care, trash. Let's say this is 0 because anything else, let's say that's covered under maintenance reserve. Again, these are just rough guesses, but you can see here, she's going to be losing $1,500 a month cash flow. Now, if she moves into one of the units, you know, let's say she moves into the 1-bedroom unit for 1,000, right? So she would lose the.
Well, the 1 bedroom, one of the 1 bedrooms is full. It's occupied, so that's 1,000. She would live in a 1-bedroom. She'd probably say she's willing to pay 2,500 for her one just to have an investment property.
So would she live in? She would live in one of the units. Would she live in the 2-bedroom or 1-bedroom? You think?
She'd go 1 and then rent out the 2-bedroom at 21.
So she's going to be losing about, you know, rough calculations here. By the way, does everybody like these numbers? Does this kind of look accurate? I took out the monthly income for the rental property she's going to live in because obviously that's not going to produce income. So she'd be paying $3,000 a month, but that includes her rent. So she'd be living in a 1-bedroom place for $3,000 a month.
Yeah, that's about what I got.
If she moved out, assuming these pro forma numbers are correct, then she'd be losing $1,500 a month.
Yeah, and it's tough
currently.
when she's moving in with the limited down payment. I'm telling her she doesn't want to pay her portion that's much higher than market because she wants to be able to leave. But in all likelihood, she's probably just going to end up selling it instead of hanging on to it when she's ready to move on.
So if we go to this, here's an idea. If you go to the second page, because remember, I plugged the number back in here for if she was renting out the unit. So if she's renting out all 4 units, unless one of those current, rent people moves out, then at that point, she's not going to be breaking even until she's owned the property for 10 years. Now, granted, right now she's going to be losing, if she moved out and rented it out completely, she'd be losing $15,000 a year. In 5 years, she'd be losing $7,000 a year. So, it goes down and eventually she'd be making money. So
Yeah.
personally, I mean, I don't know how you guys feel about this, but personally, I don't like it. If she ever decides to move out, like right now, she's like all gung ho and like, oh yeah, I'm totally happy living there, and paying $3,000 a month to live in a 1-bedroom place because I'm going to be owning property, which is, there's some truth in that, but she won't be able to move out without the place going in the red every month for 10 years. Right.
Now, I agree, but I think the only kicker or the only thing that came to mind was there are 2 single garages and a double garage in the back. If one of those garages could possibly be turned into an ADU, I don't know what,
Absolutely. That would definitely change that. That's definitely a game changer right there. If that's possible, I mean, that's something I would want to know before touching the property.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey guys, I'm sorry. I gotta go. Sorry for the abrupt ending here, but I just realized I got a coaching call literally started a minute ago.
Cool. Thank
This
you.
is good. I hope this was helpful.
For sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll post this on the Facebook page. We can continue to comment on it. All right. Take care, you guys. I'll see y'all next. Well, I won't see you next week. I'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Be good.
All right. Bye, you guys.
Bye-bye.